Welcome, everyone. Yes, you do see three faces. It's time for a crossover episode, and we're talking about our favorite thing to talk about, punters. And, a little hint here, I am wearing a shirt for Punter University, Punter U, Bucknell, as in 2019, the 2019 season, their punter, Alex Pekin, might have him on the podcast, was named FCS All-American and went to the East-West Shrine Game, a game that I went to. But before we get into that, I'm joined by Marshall.
Flex.
No, not a flex. I'm joined by Marshall and I'm joined by Jackson. We're doing this crossover episode. You guys have any opening statements before we dig right in?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to formally call to the stand. You introduce it as like we're lawyers. Do you have any opening statements?
Oh, my bad. Sorry, it's that Lincoln Douglas debate background that's getting to me.
My fault.
Punters are people too, and I think we should formally recognize them each and every year, and this is our way of doing that. I love it. FCS punters, here we go.
Absolutely. A big week for punters as the CFL, I think their first draft pick was a punter, which is, it's amazing. As a special teams guy, I love it. I am not kidding. An Australian punter was drafted number 1 overall in the CFL draft.
For them to value a punter that high, that means they must utilize him awfully often. And I feel like rather than get a better punter, you might want to get someone that makes it so you don't have to punt as much. But
the scoring in CFL is different, where you can score a rouge, where if you punt it into the end zone and the opposing team fails to return it out of the end zone, it's a point for the kicking team.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
So he's elite at that, or
No, it's just Australian probably kicked the ball out of the stadium. That's probably what it is.
Wait, so you can kick it out the back of the end zone?
Yeah, I think if it bounces first in the field in the end zone and then back out of the end zone, I'm not sure. I'll have to see, but I do know the rouge is a scoring method. It's 1 point.
In the CFL doing the gray hair zone, between the 40s, when you can't kick a field goal, but you also can't punt it. But now you just punt it and get a point. Win-win.
Yeah, I'll send you guys a video of a nice late game scenario where pretty much if you what they'll do is punt return. They'll send their punters back as punt returners in the end zone late in game so they can kick it back out of the end zone if they receive it.
Wow,
it's kind of hype.
Makes for some pretty cool scenarios. I'll send you guys a video.
Late Night Rouge compilation.
Yeah, Late Night Rouge compilation.
Lo-fi.
But we're not talking
last year when the Dolphins drafted a long snapper in the 6th round. Try taking a punter first overall. See how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, special teams wins games. Just to speak to me about it, my high school experience. But we're not talking about CFL punters or Australian punters. We're here to talk about one punter and one punter only, Ruben Anderson, and why he has a case for, we'll go with Patriot League Rookie of the Year and possibly even Patriot League Defensive Player of the Year for a variety of reasons. And first off, I'll just start with the structure of the Patriot League season, and that's something that we've talked about extensively on both podcasts. The shortened season and how Bucknell, from the outset, I think we said in February that Bucknell had a chance to have a special season despite it being so darn short, and that's what they did. Even though they went 2-2, they went to their first postseason game since the Roosevelt administration, the FDR administration, back in 35. But their last postseason game was the 35 Orange Bowl until now, where they went to the Patriot League title game this past Saturday. And even though they lost, hats off to those guys for having a special season. Some might call it a Mickey Mouse season, despite it only being 3 games. Perfect. We didn't even plan that.
That worked out great.
we didn't plan that. But yeah, so it was kind of a Mickey Mouse season with a few games, but nothing against any of those schools, especially Holy Cross and what they accomplished being champions of the Patriot League. But with that being said, in a 3-game season, the Patriot League could have set themselves apart and showed value to their special teamers, especially their punters. And a little historical precedent, guys. True or false? Has there ever been a punter to win Defensive Player of the Year in college football for their conference?
I'd go true.
We're going like top to bottom, every single conference, Division II, anywhere.
Just Division I. We'll go Division I.
Division I. Okay. Yeah, I'll say true. I'm sure it's happened at some point.
Elmar, you gave it away when you said let's keep it Division I.
All
It
right,
must be
sorry.
true. It must be true. Omar, you cannot have an interview as the new Jeopardy host. We'll put it that way.
But Joe Buck can.
Hey, Joe Buck, he calls some nice games, all right?
All
You hear
right,
him calling the Masters? Sheesh.
that's true. You're right. But yes, I mean, you guys are both right. There has been a defensive player of the year in MAC football. Brad Maynard, future punter for the Giants and Bears, won the 1996 MAC, not only the MAC defensive player of the year, but the most valuable player of that conference. As in that year, sorry, I didn't have the average pulled up. Shame on me. As in that year, he averaged 45.8 yards a punt on 59 punts for the Cardinals. And he was drafted in the third round of the 1997 draft by the New York Giants. So truly, like, amazing stuff it's Maction. What else would you expect? But like, very incredible stuff for a punter to be named DPOY and MVP.
That's absolutely incredible. Go ahead, Jackson.
Oh yeah, it's because if you're watching football on a Wednesday afternoon, it's such as an action, then you are also a big enough football fan to appreciate punting. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand, that you get the airtime on a random Wednesday or Tuesday when random people are like, there's football on right now. You can appreciate punting for all the people that are watching. So yeah, that kind of makes sense that it'd be in the MAC.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I do think this was before like the Maction era as we know it, but I think coaches were just
that argument.
Well, no, it's still a worthy argument because I mean, like the MAC, you think about this is before Marshall, before Randy Moss came on the scene. So I mean, the landscape wasn't that great.
Marshall, how old are you? No.
Hey, not that Marshall.
45.
Yeah, before Randy Moss. So.
Yeah, I mean, so Brad Maynard, truly transcendent year. And yes, while Ruben Anderson, the punter for Bucknell, who was the subject of this crossover podcast, did not have, I'd say, a transcendent year, but I'd say he was one of the most important players on that team this year. And I'll tell you why. So if you look at his stats, looking at my handy dandy Excel sheet, he led the Patriot League in number of punts. He had 19 punts, average only 33.2 yards per punt, which isn't high. Okay, I get it. It's not high. But you look at the other metrics by which punts are measured, like fair catches, inside 20s. He had 6 inside 20s, only 150-yard rocket, but 6 inside the 20 out of 19. And you just think about the field position aspect that pretty much helped that Bucknell defense go in the regular season, the 3-game regular season. Maybe not in the Patriot League title game, but it helped him go at the time that the awards were given out. And he had especially a great game against Lehigh. And that Lehigh win might have been the greatest Bucknell win in the last 86 years, given that it clinched a spot in the Patriot League title game, got them a national TV spot at home in a spring slate where they're competing with, afternoon baseball. I don't know if any NBA was on, but they weren't really competing with much college football. And in that Lehigh game, he had one punt down inside the 20. It was only a 22-yard punt. They did punt from the Lehigh 33. Very conservative, more conservative than Rush Limbaugh. But down inside the 20. And probably the most important punt that he had, he flipped the field position on one occasion where from the Bucknell 16, Lehigh had already driven. They'd missed a field goal. Bucknell went 3-and-out on their first drive, and Lehigh punted back. Bucknell starting their own 16. He uncorks a 47-yard punt with a negative 2-yard return for a 49-yard net. Geez. And that really flipped the field position for that game. Got Bucknell out of hole, and the offense kind of got going in a 6-0 win. But his most important punt came in the midway through the fourth quarter. Bucknell deep in their own territory again from their own 13. He uncorks a 34-yard dribbler that bounces off a Lehigh player. And I think in terms of punter stats, we should account for muffs. There should be a metric for muffs because, sometimes those punts are hard to feel and they're hard to catch, like for, the coverage man to see. And so he had that muff, and Bucknell was able to take about 5 more minutes off the clock off the clock to prevent a Lehigh comeback for offense that stalled all game. And that was really the clincher in my opinion. So really a transcendent punting performance, almost the likes of George Georgopoulos on that late November night against Florida Atlantic for UMass. But that's a debate for another time. So I want to know your thoughts on this, guys, on whether it goes beyond the numbers like I'm arguing, or if I'm crazy for arguing for Ruben Anderson.
Yeah, I think you definitely have a point. At the end of the day, what wins games? Scoring points. Scoring points obviously wins games, right? So if you stop the other team from scoring points, I don't care what position you play, you're contributing to that victory. You either need to score points or you need to stop the other team from scoring points. I mean, it sounds overly simplified, but it's like truly, like, think about it. How many people actually can do that? Like, you can have a bunch of role players that, very much contribute to someone, like, get in there and it's a team effort, right? But if you have a transcendent, one player single-handedly stops them from scoring or scores, right? I mean, normally you'd attribute that to almost like a superstar status, right? I mean, you have that. I mean, like, think about it. You're down fourth quarter, 1 minute to go. You need a score to go. Who do you give it to? You say, pass it to the superstar. Or you say, make sure that man lines up on their superstar, locks him down, right? So if you're going to trust this to a player and the player is your punter and he still stops them from getting that score, I think you have every right to say that that man is transcendent. I mean, really, it's like he did contribute heavily, probably. If you want to break out some advanced metrics and you're like, measuring this in terms of like win probability added, I wouldn't be surprised if you see like a very high win probability added from that man,
Bucknell had 8 touchdowns on the season in total and 19 punts. That shows you how important that punter was to that offense. And it's incredible. There were more. Let me double check this before I say this. But let's see. More punt yards than rushing yards, and almost more punt yards than passing yards. Like it was 823 total passing yards, and then 632 net punting yards. So it is an important part of that defense. And Anderson absolutely deserves it.
Yeah, and I know if you look at the other Patriot League punters, I get that there are punters that had better averages, like Patrick Hogney of Holy Cross, who had a 40.1 yard average, Daniel Simpson of Lehigh, who had a 40.3 average with 9 fair catches and 4 inside 20s. But Anderson, like, everything compared, he was part of that defensive machine for Bucknell. And if we're looking at history, like, this was a significant season. Yes, Holy Cross repeated, and that's great, but Bucknell reached their first postseason game in 86 years. Like, let's mark this historic event by rewarding their punter and his performance, especially in the famous, we're going to call this like we have the Michael Jackson flu game or the Michael Dixon punt game with Texas in the 2017 Texas Bowl, the George Trojopoulos game this past year. We're going to call this the Ruben Anderson punt game against Lehigh, where he had a game-changing muff and an inside 20. Ignore that the inside 20 was from the Lehigh 33 because, that's very conservative. But, still, it's more inside 20s than you have sitting on your couch.
Look, at the end of the day, it's like we're going to think about what is an MVP award, right? Most valuable player, the player who helps your team get the wins, the most valuable player on the team that gets the best wins, right? I would argue Bucknell has some of the best wins in those defensive stops, right? It's exciting. Especially given the history of what they did. Like, that's cool, man. That's really cool. And so you get a player like that who contributes so heavily, so overwhelmingly. There's the argument for MVP to be made there. I think circling back to, what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, he should he played better than anyone else on defense, it seemed like, with no offense to the Bucknell's defensive squad. So, he's preventing the other team from scoring. They had a historic season, albeit 2-2 and a short season. They still one of their better ones in Bucknell's history. So, you can definitely make the case, and I think Anderson definitely deserves it. If there was ever a year to give a MVP award or a defensive player of the year award to a punter, as this year. We saw it with Devontae Smith winning the Heisman. It's just a weird year. Like, why not give it to a punter too, just from that aspect? Forget that he deserves it. Just why not give it to a punter?
Yeah, I totally go ahead, Jack. Or go ahead, Marshall.
I'll say, crossing over a little bit into the hardware territory. Let's think, what if they gave out the Heisman, right? After they do all this random draft speculation, does Mac Jones overtake Devontae Smith?
I hope not.
I'm just saying, Mac Jones, man, this man's been getting a lot of hype. So you never know how these things work out. I'm just saying, it could have been Smith. It's interesting.
Marshall, it's better not to get me started on Mac Jones on a punter podcast.
Yeah, so I guess diverging from that and going towards what Jackson said about being a weird year, we can get into draft speculation a little bit later. But the Patriot League just gave out OPOYs, Offensive Players of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year. And the Offensive Player of the Year, Tim DeMorat, probably would have won League MVP. He threw for 1,049 yards in 3 games and 2 scores. Really great performances for Fordham Rams. The Defensive Player of the Year. Well, first, we'll start off with the Rookie of the Year award given to Holy Cross's quarterback, Matt Sluka. And Matt Sluka is a great athlete, but he only played significant playing time in 1 game, making this award pretty much a Player of the Game award. Against Fordham in the Ram Crusader Cup, he ran for 151 yards on 13 carries, went 2 of 3 passing for a touchdown and 33 yards, but he didn't really play in the first game.
You said 2 for 3 passing?
Yeah, for a touchdown. He had a touchdown.
Okay, I mean, it's like you can get a one-off wide receiver trick play and he'll go 1 for 1, 60 yards and a touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So pretty much it became a Player of the Game award. And if you look at sustained quarterback or sustained play over the course of the spring season, Ruben Anderson is probably the best freshman, I think, in the Patriot League because he played 3 games at the time that the awards were given out. He had that great game against Lehigh. He had a quality game against Fordham where he had a 56-yard rocket and he had 8 punts in a 31-17 loss. So it's like, why not give a punter Rookie of the Year, you know? And why not give a punter Rookie of the Year? Because Sluka only played in 1 of the game. He had a carry for 6 yards against Lehigh. Nothing against Matt Sluka, who absolutely showed out in the nationally televised game. The man was shifty. I mean, call him, let's see.
Holy Cross Stan over here.
Call him the Zach Wilson of the 7 Hills of Worcester. We might want to clip that one. Call him the Zach Wilson of the 7 Hills of Worcester with how shifty he was. But
wait, historically speaking, what is the failed crusade? What was the failed crusade called?
Oh, dang. I don't even know that. I'm in medieval Europe history right now, but I don't know, man.
I mean, I don't know if there is. I'm just saying, technically speaking, it'd be clever, you know? Come on. Because I'm going to hate on you a little bit. That was a little Holy Cross Stand moment right there. This is all for Anderson, all right? I'm going to have to pull you back in line right here, Omar. You are out of place.
I'm arguing for him, though. I'm arguing for him.
That was an interesting argument.
I'm just saying.
That was an interesting way to go about it.
I wanted to give out a funny nickname. I want to give out a cool nickname. I'm good at that, I feel.
We'll let you live with it. Just like on this last Drip of Soda page, on the last Drip of Soda post, at first I dropped in something halfway clever. Then I was thinking about it more. Crawdaddy, baby. Crawdaddy.
But Jax, I want to know your thoughts. Like, I mean, are you in agreement that, I guess, even though Sluka did great against Fordham, it shouldn't be relegated to a Player of the Game award given the circumstances?
Yeah, it shouldn't. And I don't even know if you can make the argument for him to be a Player of the Game award when he goes 2 for 3 and he's a quarterback. Like, I mean, yeah, it should not be reduced to that because that kind of loses the whole point. It's like you can make the argument of best player versus production. I mean, we saw that a lot in this past Heisman year with Trevor Lawrence doing so well despite not even being close to the top 4 in production. But like he's not production nor the best. Like I don't know where they quite get that for the Holy Cross quarterback.
Well, Matt Sluka did have 12 carries for 145 and 2 touchdowns in a come from behind win against Fordham. That's great.
That's not like Lamar Jackson's stats.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. I'm just throwing that in there.
Screen, yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, we're focusing on the passing here. When I mean, the rush stats were there, but I mean, yeah, Anderson, of course, Rookie of the Year. I think that's a valid argument. It's harder for Defensive Player of the Year. But if you look at who won Defensive Player of the Year, Ryan Greenhagen, a great linebacker for Fordham, had 22 tackles in only 2 games, 2 TFLs and 1 sack. But his best game was a 16 tackle performance against Colgate in a 48 victory against Colgate, the last place team, like by far the worst team in the Patriot League in the spring season. He had 16 tackles. Other game, he had 6 tackles. And again, it's like he played 2 games, played less games than Anderson. That performance came against the worst team in the Patriot League. It's like, what, you know, I mean, I feel inclined to even like it. I think it might be outrageous. It might be outrageous, but I feel inclined to give Anderson up for the Defensive Player of the Year based on that too, you know?
So are you telling me that a Fordham player wins both Offensive Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year there? Is that correct?
Well, yeah.
Well, then I mean, I don't want to like try and speculate here, but this sounds more fixed than that Jake Paul fight.
That was unnecessary. That was unnecessary. To add to the pun, to add to the joke, I think Fordham fans will be on the ground crying like Yvonne Redcack last night.
Red catch.
Red catch.
Red catch. Bro, that was absolutely outrageous, man. I mean, if any of you did see that, I mean, like the memes truly capture it. It's like you sit there for 4 hours watching like a Doja Cat concert, basically, to watch a 1 minute, fixed fight, in my opinion. But I mean, this is not a mixed martial arts UFC combat sports podcast. So
where was the FCF when we needed it? Is all I'll say on that fight.
Totally agree. Not fixed at all. Not a fixed organization. But Jackson, I mean, I gotta say, like, I'm getting heated like you do whenever you say Mac Jones. It's gonna become me getting heated about Ryan Greenhagen whenever people mention his name. And I don't doubt he's not a great player, but why not give DPOY to Ruben Anderson? I mean, especially because. Yeah. Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. And what would really make us all angry is if there is, I'm guessing not, since we're talking about Anderson for defensive. Well, if there was a special teams player of the year award, some might argue let's go to Pat Honey. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Out of the punter out of Holy Cross, he has the best average. Let's give it to him. I think we'd be really heated that we're not giving it to Anderson. So they tried to go all Holy Cross across all three ways, and I think we would throw a riot. So, because that's just not right. Give it to Anderson.
Look, if they're gonna give it to him based off averages or volume, man. I mean, we've clearly established on analytics Twitter that volume stats are not meaningful in assessing player productivity. All right, so let's hold the Patriot League accountable here. Let's ask them for a little bit of better stats on this. Let's ask them for a little bit of better accountability on their awards. Maybe we get the hardware boys to go in there on their committee, on the awards committee. I mean, you guys clearly have a better sense of this stuff than they do sometimes, I mean, I don't think that'd hurt anyone,
Omar, how long until we run college football awards and we just say, okay, the Heisman really should go to this guy? Chris Fowler says, okay, Omar and Jackson have spoken. Sorry, Devontae. We're going to give it to you, Kyle.
No, I'm sorry, man.
You guys would throw it to like some second string punter out of Boise State or something like that. I swear.
Not Kyle Trask. I'm sorry, Jackson. Come on, man. Those Devontaes.
I was talking about the best pass catcher in this past year, but I'm not bitter.
I mean, okay, like the best tight end. I don't think he was better than Devontae Smith. I mean, I don't think he was.
Yeah. I guess you can pull up old podcasts that were way far ago that I just didn't know any better back then. So
Jackson, there's next year, man. All right, there's next year.
Look, I'm just saying nobody would feel bad if they gave the Heisman to Randy Moss. In hindsight,
yeah,
I'm just saying.
Would anyone? Or Fitz?
Charles Woodson. Yeah. I mean, I think, like, come on, like. If there's a year, I mean, all the pieces were there for Charles Woodson's Heisman. I guess it's sort of like this, where it's like all the pieces are there for the Patriot League to do the right thing and give Ruben Anderson DPOY. They just didn't do the right thing, but I mean, all the ingredients were there. You got a defensive player on a national contending team who played offense. I mean, it's like a three-way formula. I mean,
look, they don't realize that it's like this is a once in a lifetime thing. It's like you do it now, and then you can go back to your normal formula every other year. Let's have a little bit of fun this year. Let's make something to remember.
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, if the Patriot League were smart, they'd play the whole Bucknell being punter you thing, as I mentioned earlier, with Alex Pekin being a All-American punter and going to the East-West Shrine game. Like you have Ruben Anderson follow in that footsteps. Like it's cool, You have like we're here. Welcome to Lewisburg.
Did you go to the East-West Shrine game by chance?
I did.
Flex.
What? That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I think the Patriot League, they just missed an opportunity. I mean, the Patriot League, they could have done a whole lot with their TV time. Could you just imagine during the national TV broadcast, and now stepping back to punt, Ruben Anderson, the Patriot League's Defensive Player of the Year, and like that would have gotten some viewers on the edge of their seats, either riled up or like astonished.
I mean, it definitely would have brought some good press over to the Patriot League. You get some interested parties, either way. Like, they could come hate on you, they could come love you, but either way, you'll draw a few more viewers than you would otherwise.
Just got to say this. Game on the line, ball at my 35. I need a ball at the opponent's 35. Martian's got the death beam pointed on the earth, and I need a punter to down a punt inside the 10. I want Ruben Anderson.
I want Iguodala.
And you know what? If you're in the CFL and I need someone to punt out of the back of the end zone and on their own 30 on the opponent's 33, I'd still take Anderson for that too.
You need a ruse where the aliens got the death beam pointed at the earth? Or you need a ruse to beat them? This is like Space Jam, but football? Say what? I want Ruben Anderson. I take that back. I still want George Dropoulos.
Yeah, Jax, you got to say it with like some gusto, man. Like, I want Ruben Anderson.
It's like, like Vontae Mack, no matter what. Ruben Anderson, no matter what.
We're giving our one viewer a real good show right now.
Oh yeah.
All these clips got to be molded together. I'll put on Instagram TV. All these clips got to be molded together because, these are some good outtakes.
Well, you're gonna do a fan cam of us?
No.
Are you gonna see me in the comments of some random Twitter thread right below where they're selling their vibrator?
I think that's a good point to begin to close. I have nothing to say. I'm not gonna entertain that. I'm not gonna entertain that, Marshall. I'm not gonna entertain that.
We've touched on just about everything we can. Go ahead.
Omar, this is the reality of the social media world that we live in. I don't know what to tell you. It's a meme. People be tweeting about this. It's a meme. You're not a man of the memes. I thought you were.
I am. I am. All right. I am too, man.
So you can make memes of religious institutions that have been guiding civilization for thousands of years, bringing it into a Holy Cross football format, but you can't make a meme of somebody selling a vibrator under a tweet for $5.
No, I can't. I don't think I can. And with that,
you know what? I'm glad I know where you draw the line.
I'm glad
I know where you draw the line.
Well, before I get grilled further for my moral fallacies, does anyone else have anything to say?
I think Marshall said just about everything there is to say. So
I'll say my punter ratings are gonna go George Dropoulos 1, number 2 Marquette King, number 3 Ruben Anderson, all time.
Pat McAfee 4.
And I'll end with this. Ruben Anderson or Alex Pekin, please come on the podcast. I'll probably DM you, Alex Pekin, and ask you to appear on the podcast. But if no one else has anything to say before we get back into social media semantics.
Apologies to Ray Guy when it is renamed the Ruben Anderson Award. Wow. So.
All right. We'll see. CC freezing cold takes.
I want to make a new Horning Award, and I want it to be for this.
A Horning Award?
I want it to be for this, though.
I mean, there's already a punter award. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for.
I want a second punter award, and I want it to be the Horning Award. That's how much I respect that award.
Okay. I mean, Horning was a kicker, not exactly a punter, but
I respect the award, Omar.
Okay. You should make it happen, Marshall. Until next time, the next crossover in the next episode and in both series, I'm Omar as always with Marshall and Jackson, and peace, love, and soul, everyone.